I understand personally with the opinion of the trade union, but why will you go to media and say a salary of political office holders, National Assembly of that matter? I don't receive the money that they publish in the front pages of newspaper in the name of advocating for your standard living condition. Don't give wrong and lie information about institutions. It's done inside the public against. We are concerned about the trade union, but Mr. Speaker, we should be more concerned about the over 2 million Nigerian population who are suffering, 200 million who are suffering, who doesn't have food to eat, who cannot buy kerosene, who cannot pay school fees for their children, who doesn't have shelter to stay at home. We should remember, we must be proactive, hold that bill, adjust it, call for public hearing, stakeholders should consider that. If we have done our job, federal government will not be doing what they are doing now. The prices of commodities in market, the standard living condition of the people is sympathetic. So it is very terrible. And here we are, fighting for trade union living condition. I agree, they constitute 13% of the population of this country. But go to equity with clean hands. Do not, in doing that, suffocate sectors like hospitals, where if it is not run, Nigerians will lose their lives. The primary responsibility of government is protecting the life and properties of its people. If the action of trade union, which is legitimate, negate those essential services, I don't think they will be doing fair to the people of this country.
Madaki stopped. I will also want to say that if you read section 16, which he has espoused properly, in conjunction with section 14, which is one of the most quoted sections of the Constitution in this House, which provides for security of the citizens and their welfare being the primary purpose of government. As usual, again, I will postulate, can we say that as a government, we have succeeded in carrying out that primary purpose of government? Have we provided security for Nigerians? Have we taken care of the welfare of Nigerians? The answer to the two questions is no. We have severally talked about security, including today. In fact, it's as if one Nigerian life today equals to 1 minute silence. Now we're coming to the issue of welfare. And for several years, Nigerian workers have been complaining and crying concerning the issue of salary. Who earns 50,000 in this country and you think that a person can truly depend on a salary? Let's not deceive ourselves. It is not possible. How much is house rent? How much is your transport fare to your office and back home? And so we expect a Nigerian worker to earn as low as that and continue to serve this country. Let us stop playing the ostrich. Let's be realistic. Let's carry out our role to provide for the welfare of the citizens of this country by providing living wage for the Nigerian worker. It's really unfortunate when you hear a government talking about minimum wage and shying away from living wage. This House has resolved in the past that there is urgent need for living wage to be considered for Nigerian workers. However, having said so clearly, I will join the mover of the motion to commend the Nigerian workers for shelving the strike in the interim and allowing an opportunity for discussions and reconciliations of these issues. Although we commend them for doing that, I will also use this opportunity to also say that sometimes when we embark on some of these actions, we should not overstep boundaries. The area of switching off power in the entire country as a way of protest should be condemned. It is not proper. It is not opposite. Who are you protecting? People are in the clinic. Some persons, their lives depended on power at that moment, and you switch off the national grid. That was going too far. Whilst you have a good cause, whilst you're on track, you also need to adopt a proper process and procedure in pursuing that cause. So I will urge this House to please, with the speed with which we pass the national anthem, that we should also recall the Minimum Wage Act, reconsider it, and with that same speed, pass that act and ensure that we give the Nigerian worker a living wage in that act. That is the only way we can show solidarity with the Nigerian workers. We have the powers to make laws. Let us make that law. Let us pass it with the speed of light and allow the executive arm to either implement, assent, or refuse to assent. Where the executive arm refuses to assent, I think that will be the first call on this House for us to override Mr. President and ensure that that Minimum Wage Act is passed into law. I will therefore urge us to please support this motion and also add that the Minimum Wage Act should be recalled and reconsidered with the speed of light. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
This is a very important motion. We are being faced as a country with the issue of insecurity, and then the next issue that is bedeviling Nigeria as a country, in my opinion, is that of corruption. We cannot truly fight corruption if we don't pay the Nigerian worker a living wage. And asking for payment of living wage, which we have done variously in this House. If I could recall, about a month ago, the minority leader of the House, with myself and some other members, brought a motion on payment of living wage, not minimum wage. And I believe what we are asking is provided for in our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I want us to look at Section 16, 2D of Nigerian Constitution. It says that suitable and adequate shelter, suitable and adequate food, reasonable and national minimum living wage shall be provided for the Nigerian worker. So paying a living wage, and I know everybody here understand what living wage means. There is a difference between minimum wage and living wage. What the Nigerian worker deserves is a living wage. And I believe the federal government will see into it and make sure that a Nigerian worker is given a living wage in such a situation where he will be free to do his job. And when that person is then caught doing corruption, he can be properly and adequately punished. I therefore urge on all my honorable colleagues to support this motion with the speed of light. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I remain Honorable Adedeji Stanley Olajide. I represent Ibadan Northwest, Southwest Federal Constituency of your state. Mr. Speaker, thank you for yielding the floor. Let me echo some of the words of the minority leader. I think we need to take this one step further. I am in alignment with everything he has submitted. We actually have to criminalize the part where we shut down the national grid. Shutting down the national grid is killing the same people we are protecting. The primary job that we have is to protect lives and property. You cannot go under industrial action and kill people legally. Because shutting down the national grid, that was just one too many. I'm sure a lot of people died in the past few days of shutting down the national grid. We have to criminalize that. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, and finally, while we are all here, we support so many good initiatives. I think we need to take this. If an average Nigerian
cannot buy a bag of rice in a month, and we're talking about 60,000 naira for minimum wage. I think we need to reconsider that position and actually do something that actually brings dignity to Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Limitations. Granted, you can strike, but there are limitations. And this you can find in Section 13 of the Trade Union Act T14, Cap T14, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria. This section restricts strike in essential services deemed vital to public safety and well-being. So when we as Parliament will stay and will say they acted well, even when they acted outside the provisions of our law, I don't think that is where the Parliament will want to align herself. Let me also mention that Section 31, subsection 6 of the Trade Union Act, as amended, prohibits workers and their unions from organizing or participating in strikes if they are engaged in the provision of essential services, which many of you have addressed here. The first schedule to the Trade Dispute Act, as amended, defines essential services broadly, and that includes: 1, public service, includes service in a civil capacity in the armed forces and industries connected with the armed forces. 2, supply of electricity. This is our law: supply of electricity, power, water, or fuel. Trade Dispute Act is very clear with regards to the areas they cannot extend their strike into. Number 3, broadcasting and communication services. You can't wake up and say the radios will not work, television shut down, people cannot know what is happening. It's like anarchy. You can't wake up and say maintenance of ports, harbors, docks, airports, and all that transportation means you are going to strike there. The law also says, number 5, public health services like hospital, sanitation, road cleaning, and fire service. These are essential services that are critical to community well-being, and their disruption is seen as having harmful consequences. So the public interest is more important at all times and should not be interrupted. So this public interest at all times outweighs the right of the workers, because it's not every member of the public that is a public servant. So this is what we must debate. We should look into that when we are, debating this kind of issue, so that we don't go and tell Nigerians that the law says this, but that these people acted, well, even though they acted outside the law. Let us hear from here, all the way from the back. Pastor.
My respected colleagues, once again, my name is Engineer Aderemi Oseni. I represent the good people of Ido Ibarapa East Federal Constituency. I want to sincerely appreciate this, the mover of this motion. And having said that, I want to appreciate all the people, my senior colleague and honorable members that have spoken on this issue as well. Few things that we need to address on this issue has to do with our position as an organ of government. We all agreed that Nigerian Labour Congress, they have the right to present their view and their expectation from the executive. But at the same time, just like the issue of switching off the national grid has been totally condemned,
I want to, at this point, reflect on a few things that we need to understand as an organ of government while we are contributing, on this matter. The fact that the
Please
minimum wage...
Make it brief so that others can contribute.
Yes, minimum wage seems to be very low. It's understandable. But we cannot plan completely for the executive as the people who have control. They have the idea of the amounts they need to spend annually in the budget. As a business leader, we shouldn't use the floor here to look at it as if whatever amount that we need to say it should be adopted or whatever Labour is agitating for. With the issue of pretense, we shouldn't be using inflammatory statements that the executive is pretending as if they were not seeing what the Labour Congress were talking about. I think that is completely shouldn't be discussed at this point in time, with an organ.
All right, thank you.
Like us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give other people opportunity to.
This motion is a very important motion and very timely. Mine is just to draw the attention of this House that as an institution that is saddled with the responsibility of promulgating laws for the good governance of this country, we should equally play a mediatory role whenever there is dispute between employer and employee. I want to draw our attention to the fact that while we are discussing this very sensitive issue, we should be mindful of the fact that we equally have our limitations. You can neither discuss for or against when negotiations are taking place. Ours as leaders is to advise government to kindly, on behalf of all Nigerians, to do the needful and do it timely. And at the same time, draw the attention of the trade unions that while they are conducting their legitimate functions of negotiating with government on behalf of workers, they should be mindful of the fact that they should be guided by the laws of the land. Where some of them try to cross the boundaries, the laws of the land should call them to order. We have a nation, we have an economy, and it is the responsibility of all of us to always be mindful that you can be in government, you can be a civil servant or a public servant only when the land, when the government and the country exist. So mine is very simple. One, to urge government and labor union to kindly go back to the drawing board and do the right thing within the ambit of the law. Even the war going on in Gaza must end on a round table. All issues globally are sorted out on a table. But where you are going to embark on a strike, let us please, on behalf of Nigerians who are not civil servants, because where your right ends, somebody's right begins.
Thank you.
It is on this note. I guess I'm protected.
You are protected. No observation in sitting. You come by way of point of order and refer us to that order. But you are protected. Go ahead.
So,
but round up.
I align myself with the fact that we should, as a parliament, hasten in revisiting the issue of the minimum wage, the law guiding minimum wage, and the Trade Union Act, so that we put things in their proper perspective. Going forward, we should avoid areas that people should be crossing their boundaries while doing.
Thank you very much. We've been taking two. We'll come back to do 111. So let's take two here. Kabiru.